Hey folks, Dale Davison here, the Dear VA guy. Hey, winner chicken dinner. What is the easiest VA disability claim you could ever hope to get? Anybody? Bueller? Well, nobody guessed it. It's tinnitus, okay? So before we get into tinnitus and what that's all about, let's take a little bit of time and talk about hearing loss or hearing impairment in general. And so I'm often reminded of that scene in Good Morning Vietnam where Robin Williams is impersonating an artillery man requesting a song. Says, "Just play it loud." So anyway, look, if you're a veteran and you've been around all kinds of loud noises, from gun battles, artillery, mortars, heavy equipment, whatever it is, you've incurred some kind of loud noise during your service. And so you probably experienced some deafening sounds while in service. And so what we're talking about today really is entitlement to service connection for, they call it impaired hearing loss, and that there are certain threshold requirements of the VA in their regulations for various, we're dealing with frequencies and auditory thresholds, but we're not going to get into all the weeds of that. But we're talking about just really hearing impairment in general and what you've got to do to have a successful claim for that. So realize that with hearing impairment, the VA, they just basically ignore court's rulings and rate most hearing loss on claims that are mechanical in nature, that are basically under their rating schedules, without providing any kind of adequate discussion of extra scheduler ratings or the effect of your hearing loss on your ordinary daily activities, okay? So here's a big hint for everybody out there. You need to let the VA know that how your hearing loss limits your ordinary daily activities. Maybe you avoid large crowds, noises. If your hearing loss is having an unusual impact on your daily life for any reason, make sure that the VA examiner discusses the effects of your hearing loss on what they refer to as your occupational functioning and daily activities, okay? And that the VA is aware of the need for extra scheduler consideration, okay? So if you're, say, well, I can't function as a call center person because I can't hear these telephone calls, or I can't do this, whatever it is, just let the VA know. You've got a blank canvas when you're creating or fixing to put in your claim for disability. Paint that picture as best you can, okay? So while the rating criteria, the VA rating criteria for hearing loss contemplates the functional effects of a decreased hearing and difficulty understanding speech in everyday work environment, they don't take into account just exactly how that affects your daily living. And that's what we need to convey to the VA. So do you have ear pain? Do you have dizziness, loss of balance? Are you socially isolated due to your difficulties in communicating? Okay. Now I know with me, I have some tinnitus, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And so I know when I'm in large crowds, I kind of sit toward the end of the table and do my best to read lips because I can't really make out what people are saying in large crowds. But make sure that you argue that you have complaints related to your hearing loss and extra scheduler consideration is warranted. So, all right, let's talk about the easiest benefit to get according to some in the VA and according to some other folks out there, and that's tinnitus. Of course, I just told you I have tinnitus. It's a constant ringing in my ears. Some people might have ringing, buzzing, a roaring sound, or clicking in their ears. And lucky for me, I have constant ringing in both of my ears, okay? So you can develop tinnitus gradually, or it can come all of a sudden. Tinnitus can be triggered months or years after an underlying cause, such as hearing loss, okay? Now, this adds to the difficulty of determining where this arose, okay? Whether it arose in service or after service. So that's an issue. But we always look at what is your MOS, okay? And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. As for me, when I was young, I hunted a lot and I shot a lot of guns, all without ear protection. So I'm blaming that on my tinnitus, okay? So for veterans, you folks out there, you might not be able to pinpoint when your tinnitus began, but the good news is that the only requirement to a 10% evaluation is that you have recurrent tinnitus. So in other words, the VA is not necessarily looking at when you developed this tinnitus, whether it was in service or after service, okay? Just that you have it and it's recurrent. Recurrent being defined as returning or happening time after time. Mine is every second of every day, okay? And so, yes, daily is recurrent, all right? So theoretically, veterans who experience symptoms 1 or 2 days a month or every 2 months should be entitled to a 10% rating. So in addition to the 10% rating, the other good news for today is that you can combine your tinnitus rating with other evaluations under certain diagnostic codes, okay, as long as tinnitus does not support the evaluation under one of those other diagnostic codes. So a single 10% disability rating is available for tinnitus, whether it's perceived in one ear or both ears or just in your head, okay? So you get a whopping 10% for tinnitus. So how can you increase your rating if you're just stuck at 10%? Well, you're always going to be stuck at 10% because that's the maximum, okay? So a lot of questions here. So do you have hearing loss or dizziness with your tinnitus? Tinnitus symptoms can generate feelings of despair and anxiety in many people, okay? Current estimates suggest that about 50 to 80% of patients or people with severe tinnitus also experience depression, anxiety, and they have other behavioral disorders. So if you have other behavioral disorders or depression or anxiety, that's a separate diagnostic code. Maybe you are experiencing anxiety and depression because of your tinnitus, okay? Do you have abnormal or extreme sensitivity to noise, including anything that's in the environment that's just an ordinary sound, as you know, for normal volume, okay? Do you have selective sound sensitivity? Okay, that's called misophonia, is an abnormal negative emotional reaction to specific sounds, usually made by other people, such as chewing, sniffling, clearing one's throat, whatever it may be. Now, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but I have a daughter-in-law. She's a sweet girl, but boy, don't chew ice around her because it drives her nuts, all right? So this is kind of what we're talking about. That's a noise that is produces an emotional reaction in her. So if you have misophonia, you often experience a fight or flight response, such as sound to such sounds, okay, which she gets upset, triggers anger, disgust, or desire just to walk out of the room. Phonophobia is a condition where you have a fearful emotional reaction to specific loud sounds. Okay? Do you have chronic physical symptoms that cause excessive thoughts, emotions, and behaviors related to your symptoms? Don't know. These symptoms can include pain, weakness, or shortness of breath. You can also experience extreme anxiety about the symptoms, which can lead to difficulty with daily activities and a belief that, just routine medical problems are life-threatening. These are called somatic symptom and related disorders. Typically, an individual with this type of disorder has some kind of physical symptom of a medical condition, but that tests negative for that condition. So psychological factors are either involved in or causing the symptoms. And all of this is related to your tinnitus. It's almost like a secondary condition to your tinnitus. But look, there's no bulletproof way or magic pill to increase your tinnitus rating. You're stuck at 10% for tinnitus, period. All I'm saying is that as a veteran, if you have tinnitus and you have any other, quote, issues related to or secondary to your tinnitus, you could increase your overall rating with your other issues. Hey folks, thanks for tuning in today. Hey, go check out this video. It's called The Key to Winning VA Claims Medical Evidence. It will give you a whole lot of information about medical evidence and how important it is to win your VA claim. So until next time, be blessed.